Chitra, yeah, sir, we are live now.
Yep.
So, good evening, all. I, Shuman, on behalf of Shield Healthcare, welcome you all to another very interesting session. And the session will be organized by Shield Connect and Kendriya Vidyalaya Trichy Alumni 722 to 84. And the topic is Universal Scientific Template for Health, Wellness, and Fitness. So, before into the session, let me introduce today's MC, Dr. Janik Ram, sir. Sir is an alumni of MNC and a recipient of a gold medal in MBBS and pursued MS ENT from MNC. Sir has also received Chief Minister's Young Scientist Award in Medicine. He is the director of Royal Pearl Hospital and has won awards for being the best medical faculty and a passionate teacher. Sir has pioneered JNA in India and has chaired many conferences across the world as a faculty. And apart from the medical practices, sir has a keen hobbies like singing and is a key fit enthusiast. So with the short introduction, I request sir to take over the session and introduce further. Thank you very much, sir. And over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Suman, for your kind words. Actually, my name is Dr. Janik Ram, for those who are not my classmates also, and some of you would have joined from outside. Now, actually, we form a group called KV Alumni Group. And there, what happens is that it's a WhatsApp group where all the classmates join together and discuss something in common. So my classmate, Krishna Prasad, I have a classmate called Krishna Prasad, and he's my first friend in life. And we used to go by a bullock cart to the school. I studied in KV, Kendriya Vidyalaya, both in Fort Station and in OFT. And in fact, he used to come to my house, he used to take curd rice with vadumanga, same thing I used to do when I go to his house in Malakotai. I still have fond memories of many of my classmates. In fact, we used to struggle to get the first rank. Then, the rank system was there. And it was always a delight and pleasure when you see studious students like Renuka, then Shobha, all these people we used to fight to get that first rank. Well, that's KV. About my career in MBBS, I had the opportunity to study along with some of the top guys at present in the world. And in fact, we also have a group, the MMC alumni group. And also we have some other groups like music group for MMC and fitness group for MMC. And what happened is that one fine day, Dr. Bose, Vijay C. Bose, whom I'm going to introduce, he said, we'll start something in fitness. And so we had a Zoom meeting. This happened a couple of years back, Bose. I'm not very sure.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
3 years back, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, 3 years back, because that was COVID. And then he proposed the idea. It was really good. I gave a short lecture on, gym. And then he summed up the whole thing because, and then believe me, I have seen some of my classmates, very, very close classmates like Professor Anthony. Now he's the professor and head of department of ENT in Madras Medical College, and Dr. Prem Kumar. Prem Kumar, incidentally, is my classmate even in 10th to 12th. So he's from Trichy, and now he is a gastroenterologist in Department of Madras Medical College. And of course, Dr. Akila and so many others who came from Trichy. And what happened was I saw a dramatic transition after Dr. Bose's lecture, as well as I think after Dr. Bose keeps, insisting on certain very important points. After that, I thought Krishna Prasad used to keep talking about walking every day. And then I remembered Bose always says walking is not a complete exercise. You have to have 3 different kinds of exercises, which includes, anabolic, catabolic, and also flexibility. And that's how I said, when I wrote that comment in the group, then I thought of Bose and I requested him. Actually, Bose, I want to introduce Bose formally. Bose was one of the very, 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 academic personality right from his MBBS days. I've seen him like that. So he presently works as the joint director and consultant joint reconstructive surgeon at Asian Joint Reconstruction Institute in Chennai. He has special interest in arthroplasty of the young patient and has a keen focus on hip resurfacing and partial knee replacements. And he has delivered numerous guest lectures in various national and international conferences and performed over 85 live surgical demonstrations of hip, knee, and arthroplasties in India and many other Asian countries. So he's a global figure. Experience of doing more than 2,000 hip resurfacing, which is the largest in Asia and the 5th largest in the world. He's also done extensive work in an acetabular component positioning, which is published in the Journal of Bone Surgery in Britain in 2010. He did his FRCS also there, I think in Birmingham. And I think he has developed a new technique, which is adopted in his Chennai quarters. He has been involved in development of BMHR processes for avian patients, sort of alien to me, though. Maybe I'll come to that stage when I am a patient. He invited overseas visiting faculty for many prestigious associations, including American Association of Orthopedics, Australian Orthopedic Association, South African Orthopedic Association. He's delivered 5 orations in arthroplasty of the hip and knee. This is with regards to his academics. But it would be more appropriate if I can talk about his fitness and how he became sort of I can call him a fitness guru. How did he become a fitness guru? First of all, I always say a guru is one who actually does what he preaches. So you can't just be fat and bulky and then preach about fitness. So I have always seen him fit. Number one, and he plays tennis, and he's a fantastic tennis player. In fact, I think he's won a lot of accolades in that sport also. And he practices what he preaches. That is point number one. And he also tries to convey and teach whatever he knows. And that is, I think, the quality of a complete human being. I keep telling that. Unless you, teach 10 people, you never become complete. Despite his busy schedule, the moment I asked him, he said, Johnny, why not? I can do that. So that is actually the willingness to teach I could see. And I really thank you, Dr. Bose, for being here to propagate some concepts to, this crowd is a varied crowd. We studied in Kendriya Vidyalaya, but each one is Don in his own field. Not many are, I think, doctors. I'm not very sure, though. But then each one is doing great. And I now hand over the dice to you to continue with your lecture. Really a big thanks to you for spending your Sunday evening with us. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Janik Ram, for a kind introduction. As you know, Janik Raman can be very free with his words. Thanks very much. Many of you may not be in the medical field, but Janik Raman is a truly legend in ENT circles in the medical field, and really a pleasure and honor to always interact with all his programs. So thanks, Janaki, and glad to see Dr. Sivasubramaniam, who's also very interested in fitness. He's also joined the program today. Yeah. So
hi, Shiva.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Great. So these, Janik Raman, Siva, and myself are all the same batch in Madras Medical College, 84 batch, and we've done our bit to propagate this thing about health. I think it's very, very important. So with that introduction, I will start my lecture. Okay. So this one will be a little different from what you're used to. I'm sure you must have heard a lot of fitness lectures in your COVID, especially post-COVID. But this is going to be a little lecture. I'm not going to say this is right, this is wrong. There's a sure way of making people not to follow what you're saying. So with that thing, let us start off. Now, we all know that health is wealth. And if you don't make time for your wellness, you soon have to make time for your sickness. We all know all that. That's the easy part. But the tough part really is, the world, we know are all sinking into, all these lifestyle disorders. So the question is, we all are getting more and more sick. We all know that diabetes, obesity, blood pressure, everything is on the rise. So the question really to ask yourself is how to achieve these optimal health, fitness, and wellness. Now, the real problem that we suffer now is an information overload. I'm sure you'll all agree with that. And we're all, PhD, multiple PhDs from WhatsApp University. We have PhDs in almost every field. All of us got PhDs. And that really is a problem because it's incomplete knowledge. It is not a comprehensive knowledge. And therefore, there is a problem to it. Now, what is the problem that people face when everyone wants to get healthy, that's fine. But what is the problem that we face today? We get advice like this on WhatsApp saying that if you drink carrot juice in the morning, you'll get healthy. Or if you do Surya Namaskar, you'll get healthy. And eat lots of spinach, you'll get healthy. You laugh 5 times a day, people say, you'll get healthy. I mean, these are all good things. Don't get me wrong. They're great things. But those themselves will not make you healthy, obviously. These are all parts of it. But people misinterpret this as the secrets of health. So remember that health doesn't have any secret. It's all about getting knowledge and not secrets. Okay. So, however, what is not good is we have things like DLCC. People go there to get healthy, lose weight. Bad idea. And the people go to Ayurvedic retreat for a month and lose weight and then come back and put on weight promptly. I'm sure many of you would have experienced that. That is a very bad thing to do. Now, then, of course, you can go on and watch YouTube videos. The problem with the YouTube videos is there are millions of videos on health, and we watch 2 of them on the same topic, they probably will be diametrically opposite. Then you don't know where to start. Where am I start? Then, okay, you say, okay, I'm going to do my own scientific research, but Siva, our classmate, is very good in this topic, that today's scientific research has got bias. Companies, influence various things, there is dollar power, as we call it. So where do you go? I mean, how do you get health? That really is the question. So we seem to have been really in a fix because that's probably the reason why we are not moving forward. Then, of course, you have, all of us have doctors. So you say, okay, I can't do all this. I can't research myself. I'll just go ask my doctor what to do to get into health, wellness and fitness. Now, the thing about doctors is that now if we say a music director, all professional music directors will, be very good in music. There is no professional music director who is not good in music. A professional sportsman who is not good in sports. And unfortunately, professional doctors who are actually, dealing with health, they are the prime examples of absence of health. You would have seen your own doctor, my own batchmates, your own batchmates. I mean, you're a health professional, but obviously you're not in health. So it's sort of an oxymoron that health and doctors. So doctors themselves don't seem to have a clue towards health. Now, what are the mistakes? That's a very important point. What are the mistakes that we make as doctors? As myself, Dr. Janik Ram, and Shiva's doctor. Now, this is a fundamental point that I want to get across. And this is the mistake that doctors make. There's something known as a neutral health status. Neutral health. Then there is one side you have disease, and the other side you have optimal health. Now, in medical school, whether we do undergraduation, then we do 10 years post-graduation, etc., different specialties, we are masters of treating true disease. Whenever somebody has got a true disease, Janik Ram, anything in the skull base is able to handle. That is disease that is able to handle. And because, we are really masters at handling disease. However, no one teaches us what's health, whether in undergraduation or post-graduation. And so when a patient comes and says, doctor, I want to get into optimal health, I don't have any disease. So what is natural for us to say, what do? You give a small dose of what we do in disease. That is completely illogical. Actually. So if for orthopedics, if you take me, I have, give vitamin D for vitamin D deficiency. But somebody who comes and asks me, doc, can you give me something for, bone health? I want my bone health better. So I say, you take 1/5 of the dose of vitamin D, you'll get good bones. I'm sure your doctors must have told you that. That's completely illogical. Because, it's like, you go to a parent going to a school headmaster and saying, my son is failing all the subjects. What do? So he says, I'll give him 10 lashes with a cane. He'll become all right. That's fine. He will become all right. He starts to pass. But another parent takes his son who is actually good in studies and says, and I want him to get first mark. Then the principal who deals with only, very bad students who are failing now thinks, okay, I'll give him 2 lashes. He'll get the first mark because he applies his knowledge on bad students on good. That's completely illogical. So doctors are not equipped to deal with health as of now, and this should change. So how do doctors tell you? Suppose I go and ask my doctor, how do I know my health is good? I'm sure all 100% of doctors would say, go and get a master health check done. Now remember, master health check has got nothing to do with health, and that's a big bogus. And what really is a master disease check. They're trying to see whether you have any disease that they can treat. Master health check has got nothing to do with health, unfortunately. So it's a sad situation that we are in. We call it master health check, but basically, no Western country has got this master health check. Only in India we have this master health check. Now remember that lifestyle disorders are not true diseases. Okay. Now Hippocrates, who is the father of medicine, we take a Hippocratic oath, all doctors. So all that he said is so valid today. Illnesses do not come upon us out of the blue. They are developed from small daily sins against nature. When enough sins are accumulated, illnesses suddenly appear. So it's something that we do in daily that leads to all these. These are not true diseases. That's why we don't like to call them diseases. They are disorders, and we call them as lifestyle disorders. So now what I'm going to do, how to go from a neutral health status to optimal health. That really is the focus today of it. And doctors are not equipped because they're not being taught this. So we have come across this template. I'll talk about this in detail. So every word of this is very important. It is universal. It's not for a specific ailment or anything like universal. It's comprehensive. It is not allopathic. It's not Ayurvedic. It is not fitness. It's a comprehensive and it is scientific template for health, wellness, and fitness. Not my own. It is by a group of doctors who believe that that we doctors must also deal with health as we deal with illness. So we have put together over the last 7-8 years, and the primary intervention. So for everybody we do interventions, health, not disease interventions, health interventions. So the primary interventions are diet. 3M stands for 3 macro diet, intervention, and hydration, and we call it the 4D exercise program. Now, the why is 2022 is important is it is not written in stone like the 10 commandments. In 2025, we may refine it a little based on the evidence at that time. We may change it. So it's a dynamic template. Then fasting. Now, note that I have not called it intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting is something that people think was invented in the US in 2014, but that's not true. It was invented in India many centuries ago. So that's what we call as fasting. Okay, this is the 3 interventions that we do to somebody who wants to go into primary intervention to get into, but that's not the whole story. So we'll talk about all this. Second interventions are optimizing sleep. Very important. And you've got to do, your breathing has to be optimized as well. And you must do stress reduction. So everything is important. So health is a very holistic topic. You cannot just say, I'm doing weights every day, I'll become healthy. That's the common mistake that you make. You cannot. The body is a whole. Body functions as a whole. So, and then a tertiary intervention. So sunlight is very important for us. The brain workout is important for us. Clean environment is involved. All this only constitutes health. If you lack any of this, you will pay a price. Okay. So with that introduction, we'll start off. So this master health check is completely useless to evaluate health. Master health check to pick up diseases. Whereas here, this is all what all we do. We have 5 key metabolic parameters and 10 key fitness indices for everybody. This is universal for everybody. And now, based on this, we now say that you are healthy. You can improve your health status by improving all this. So this is a very scientific template. It is not just loose talk. This is what we have a group of doctors who really should be doing it. We have put together this template for you. So remember that you cannot teach a man anything. You can only teach children. You cannot teach adults anything. You can only help him discover it himself. And nothing is more true. If I tell you like a gospel, this is good, this is bad, you're not going to listen to what I'm saying. But what I'm trying to do today would be to realize yourself the principles that underlines all these concepts. And it's for you to understand. You have to have a scientific understanding of this, and then you will follow whatever you think is valid and not follow whatever you think is not valid. So the first thing that we do, is that you know about health is that the common mistake that health advice that we get, any type of diet that leaves a person hungry is doomed to fail. So people say reduce your calories, eat very little. That may work for 1 month, 2 months, but never work in the long term. That's the first mistake everyone makes. And now I'm sure you all would have seen these powders. These are meal substitutes, and so meals you have it. Of course, you lose weight. There's no question about that. You'll have very low calories, but there's a very unhealthy doing. Very unhealthy. So please do not go into all this. So gross calorie reduction and hunger will put the body into conservation mode. Okay, so bad. So never ever do something that leaves you hungry. Fundamental point. You're never going to be healthy. Now there's something known as fat overshooting. So people have go into a very strict type of diet. They lose weight and they'll have this odd body composition, and then they'll put on weight again like a yo-yo, and that is called, and then they'll put on this fat again, and that's called as fat overshooting. Very bad for health. Is very bad. So please don't go into all this. extreme measures. We have seen a lot of people going wrong. Now, what about going to this Ayurvedic retreats and things like that? And you go to an Ayurvedic retreat, 1 month you are doing yoga and you are very healthy. Then you come back home and you put the weight back on. So this will never work. You cannot change your lifestyle like this 1 month, then expect it to be last a lifetime. So that's just not going to work. Now remember that first thing you have to remember is that rapid weight loss is not getting back to health. So the goal is not weight loss. Please don't think that weight loss is health. So rapid weight loss is not getting back to health. However, while you get back to health, you will experience weight loss. That's the correct perspective of it. So goal is not weight loss. That's a very wrong goal to have. I lost so much weight. That is a very poor goal to have. However, if you scientifically follow principles and get back to health, you will experience weight loss. That's the correct way of looking at it. Okay. Now again, these are very common, very popular now. People talk about all sides of diet: the paleo diet, South Beach diet, the keto diet, etc., detox, etc. Now, what are fad diets? Fad diets are diets that promise quick weight loss and usually require you to eat specific types of food. So these diets are, will never work. They're all very extreme things and certainly unhealthy. So please don't get into this trap of following these fad diets for weight loss, because weight loss is not the goal at all for the first thing. So quick fixes don't work. There is no magic. There is no secret to health. And the only way to do it is knowledge. Knowledge is only what is going to make you healthy in the long term. So, we have all got, I'm sure all the doctors here would have known, patients coming, doc, I don't smoke and drink. How would I develop heart attack? Well, there's a common principle thing that we have, that the only unhealthy thing that you can do is smoke and drink. That's completely wrong concept. You must get out of the mindset that the only thing wrong for lifestyle is drinking and smoking. And if you don't drink and smoke, you will get to perfect health. That's completely illogical. So we may be doing many mistakes. So what we eat can be can be damaging to us. There are foods that are direct toxins to various organs. They cause low-grade inflammation of the body, and there are some foods which disturb the gut bacteria, the microbiome, and then allergy, intolerance, allergy. These are the 4 mechanisms by which what we eat will damage our body. Now, when we eat is very important. The wrong time of eating or constant feeding will damage your body beyond repair. Okay, how we eat, the inappropriate hormone response by the way we eat, the wrong proportion of constituents. There may be good food, but wrong proportions, and the pace of eating, you're using too fast. So all these mechanisms will damage your body. Now remember, whatever damage the health you do is something that you do on a daily basis. Once in a month, you go to the friends, you drink, you smoke, nothing will happen. Believe me, nothing will happen. It is what you do in a daily routine that really is the problem. What you do once in a way, nothing will happen. You want to eat ice cream once in 15 days, nothing will happen. Absolutely nothing will happen. So remember this, the foods you eat can either be the safest and the most powerful form of medicine or the slowest form of poison. Such a true statement. It is not smoking and drinking. It is the foods that you eat that may be really damaging you. So the first concept that I want to introduce to you is clean eating. Clean eating means avoiding food that damage the body and not counting calories. All dietitians will tell you, count calories, eat 625 calories in the morning. I mean, how can you eat 625 calories? That's not possible. So avoid counting calories. It is a very, what shall we say, you will never win this battle if you just count calories. Okay, so never count calories, but clean eating. The foods must be clean. That means it must not be a direct toxin. It must not cause inflammation. It must not derange your gut microbiome. It must not cause allergy. That means it's a clean food. So you have various foods you can see worse for liver health, so much food. A lot of pro-inflammatory foods you can see. A lot of foods that damage the gut. So instead of going into each one of them, we like to look at the common factors. The common factors are refined sugars, real poison, processed foods, and equally potent poison, fast food, packaged foods. And this is common for all 3. Okay, there are other things and other portions, but the common is these 4, big 4. And if you keep eating them on a regular basis, and then if you want to get to health by taking some tablets, you're really not doing the right thing. So can the bad food we eat be more harmful than smoking? Recent evidence points that's true. Actually, the bad food can be far more damaging to the body than smoking itself. And there are publications on that actually the food can be actually. So this is a very famous book by John Yupton, and then he says about sugar, pure, white, and deadly. And I'm sure you all know that pure, white, and deadly is a term that's used to describe cocaine. So he uses that term because it's as harmful to the body as cocaine. Now we may treat it very lightly, but now having spent so much time on health, I'm so sure it's as deadly as cocaine, actually, white sugar. So something that needs to really be banned. White sugar really needs to be banned. A lot of patients will come and say, they're the perfect diet, everything is perfect, but still they're not, getting healthy. And first question I ask them, did you have coffee? They say, yeah, 2 cups of coffee. How much sugar? 2 spoons each. There's no way you're going to get into it. It's like having 4 cigarettes a day. There's no way you're going to get to health eating white sugar. So just like we say, a cigarette can harm from your hair to your toe, a white sugar, processed sugar can harm from your hair to your toe. It is a more deadly poison. And one of the main culprits of metabolic syndrome. So this picture will be referring again and again. So these are all lifestyle disorders: diabetes, heart disease, your acid reflux disease, your high blood pressure, your cancer, your body aches and pains, stroke, depression, Alzheimer's, or people getting brain atrophy. These are all, and polycystic ovarian disease in women. These are all the manifestations of the same disease, which we now call as metabolic syndrome. Okay, so the sugar is one of the main reasons of metabolic syndrome. So please, you have to avoid sugar. Now, what about the food that we eat? So people say this is good, that is bad, but understanding the principles is like the following. So the carbohydrates that we eat, there are good carbs, there are bad carbs, and ugly carbs. The ugly carbs are the fast food, and your cookies, your donuts, your sugary cereals. Sugary cereal is one of the worst food that man has ever eaten. So every day morning you take some strawberry cornflakes, and if you really think you can get to health, you're sadly mistaken. It's like having a pack of cigarettes every morning. You're just not going to get into health. So those are the ugly carbs. The bad carbs are your white bread, white rice, white pasta, maida. They're bad carbs. And then there are good carbs. So you have your brown bread, your brown rice, your red rice, your oats. These are all good carbs. So the simple thing that you do is, if you're already eating a lot of bad carbs, you change it into good carbs. So let not anybody tell you that carbs are bad, or protein is bad, or fat is bad. These are all natural things, and these are good, but they have to be unprocessed. And these are what we call as the good carbs. So as long as you're eating good carbs, it's fine. So refining of rice is the recent phenomenon over the last 200 years. What is a very healthy thing to eat? Rice. We started refining them, making them very white, and we took all the healthy part of the rice out and kept back only the unhealthy part. So please don't take white rice in large quantities. You're just asking for trouble. It's got a very high glycemic index. You shoot up your insulin when you take white rice, especially in large quantities. And therefore, it's a good idea for you to change into more, full forms of rice, whether it's brown rice or black rice, red rice, excellent substitutes for your white rice. The Kerala red rice is an excellent option as well. You could probably think of changing into that. Now, again, it's all man-made. All these things are man-made. So this wheat flour, wheat again is a natural product, but instead of eating whole wheat, we convert it into maida or process it. Now, processing of wheat is like a factory. And all these toxic materials are added or are used in the process of converting what is a healthy ingredient into a very, very, very bad toxic ingredient, that's maida. Okay, now the worst thing to do is to combine processed sugar with maida. So each one amplifies the one another. So you take a biscuit, for example, that's maida and sugar. That is just like a potent poison it is. It's a simple thing that we don't understand. And if you see the items prepared from maida, your naan, your roti, your puffs, your sandwiches, your pizza, your biscuits, everything, your pastries, your cakes, all that is prepared from maida. So, and the maida is like a chemical product. So much goes on into the preparation of maida, and then you say, I'm not healthy. Of course, you're not healthy. However, there are good substitutes. Yeah, whole wheat things are available. Any form of whole things that you can have. it's a good substitute. As long as you realize it's like smoking, damaging your body, and you avoid it, and then you'll be fine. Proteins, again, anything that comes packed, whether they say, energy bar or protein shake, absolutely bad thing to have. Processed meats, canned vegetables. Vegetables is good, but once it comes canned, it's a very, very, very bad protein. All these health bars, processed stored meat that you buy in the supermarket are all so bad. But protein itself is very good. When you have good eggs, good fish, good meat, fresh meat, your legumes, your beans, peas, excellent source of food. So by now you'd have known that anything natural is good. So let's not, further bifurcate it. That leads to confusion. So anything natural is good. Anything that comes processed, stored with a long shelf life is very, very, very bad. So that's the first point. Again, fats. So you have your good fats. All these are good fats. And anything that says low fat, anything that in the label you say low fat is very bad for your body, because they process the food and they make it into low fat. And that's such a processed food. So whether you say this yogurt is low fat, or your chips is low fat, your meat is low fat, that's a highly processed food. It's all American, principles that have been sort of, anything that US does, everybody follows all around the world. So America went into ill health 20 years ago, then we all followed it, and then we all fell into the same trap. We all started eating low fat. Low fat is the worst thing to eat. Ghee is excellent. Your paneer is excellent. Your meat is excellent. Your nuts is excellent. Excellent natural food that we have been eating for centuries. We have given that up and eating this low fat stuff, which is surely going to cause health problems. Now, this is sold as a health dessert, low fat yogurt. And that's the really sure way of causing disease, would be to eat something like a low fat yogurt. Okay. So without going into the details, there are basically three macros. You have carbs, proteins, and fats available naturally. And nature has given us a very good balance of things, very good things. Nature can never be wrong. And if somebody tells you, carbs are bad for you, fats are bad for you, cannot be. You're so anti-nature. Cannot be. So remember the fundamentals. So everything that I said is just common sense. Remember that the body needs all the three macros. It is illogical to say any of the macros bad for health. It cannot say that any macro is bad for health. However, proportion is crucial. You must learn to dial the proportion. So depending on what you want weight loss, you want some other thing, you want more energy, you want to be a sportsman. So you may have to dial the proportion that you want on a scientific basis. All natural food is good, and all processed refined food is, without exception, is bad. Okay. And if you eat processed food and refined food and stored food, the long shelf life, you are asking for trouble. There's no question about that. Now, if fats are so good, then why is that all of doctors, even today, they all say, don't eat fat? Why is it that? Now, this all comes from the US, very flawed advice they've been giving all over the world, and the world has been following them. So you may or know about this guy called Ansel Keys. He was the guy who said, if you eat fat, you'll straight away go to your coronary arteries and block your coronary arteries. That was completely wrong. This was in the 1960s, and the whole world followed his flawed experiments. And they said, fat is bad, fat is bad, fat is bad. Cholesterol will block your heart. Then Time, so that was Ansel Keys in 61. Then Time, this cover of Time saying that cholesterol is very bad and you should not eat anything fatty. And 99, they say actually cholesterol is good. And by 2014, they say eat butter. Fat is actually very good. So wrong advice they gave for 40 years, 50 years, and then they turned around and said, hey, it's good. So please do not follow whatever the US advice is blindly. They have been sort of leading the world the wrong way for a long, long, long time. Companies successfully sell this that processing of food is healthy. For example, if I buy a pack of cornflakes, it says it contains this vitamin. I mean, who asks for vitamins? Just because it contains some vague vitamin, it doesn't mean it becomes healthy. So these are all techniques that these multinationals use to sell food all over the world and saying it's health food. Why? Because it contains some vitamin. Now you're eating the worst type of food, and just because it contains some vague vitamin, it doesn't mean it becomes a health food. Now, this was one of the main reasons why India went into such a bad health status. You all know that our diabetes is 10 times, our blood pressure, high blood pressure is 10 times. I'm sure in Singapore and everywhere just the same, because the Americans said that you must eat only hot, healthy oils. And this is the advisory that they gave, that all the natural oils like coconut oil, butter should not be eaten. And you must eat canola oil and sunflower oil because they are hot, healthy and low fat oils. This is so wrong advice. And even today in India, all homes buy these so-called hot, healthy oil because they got an emblem of a heart on that. And they really inflame your body so badly that it is completely wrong. Okay. Now, nature does not make bad fats. Factories do. So all these, remember that if you, all these so-called hot, healthy oils, which are so-called low-fat oils, sunflower oil, for example, if you squeeze sunflower, you will not get oil. You've got to chemically process it. Whereas all the natural oils, traditionally, we have these in our villages, they make oil just by squeezing it. Okay. So nature does not make bad fats, but factories do. So remember that you have to buy unprocessed oil, natural oil. That's the very important. These are naturally occurring oil. So cold pressing. So whenever you buy an oil, remember that as long as cold pressed, it's a good oil because it comes out of natural. It comes from a natural source. And anything that is not cold pressed, it's chemically treated. So all our coconut oil, your sesame oil, your mustard, your groundnut, all very good oil that has been eaten for centuries. Suddenly we gave this up and we went into sunflower oil and canola oil. There's corn oil, so bad. And the ugly truth about this processed oil is, again, is like a chemical factory. They go through bleaching, all sorts of gum drying, water degumming, all those things. They process that oil to make it so-called low fat, and that's really inflaming your body. Now, in India, if you take the sunflower oil is going up and up the usage, and natural oils are going down and down. That's because of the advice that doctors themselves give without knowing that based on American advisories that this artificial oils are good for your health. Now we can see this Saurav Ganguly promoting the sunflower oil, and no wonder that he had a heart attack. Not very surprising at all. Now it's really a tragedy to look back at what we did at children. So-called healthy snacks and drinks that we gave our children, and we used to get hit if we didn't have our glass of Bonvita every day. Our parents used to hit us, and I'm sure we did the same to our kids as well. But if you really look at them, they are nothing but maida and sugar. They're the worst health that you can have. This is concentrated ill health, concentrated disease in all these so-called health drinks. And even today, if you ask somebody what is a health drink, they'll say Horlicks or Complan. They are the prime examples of ill health. And the same way, we gave biscuits for snacks for children at the school, and they're nothing but maida and sugar. And no wonder all our children became obese, and they started having diabetes even as children. You find many examples, all because of the wrong advice that we've been giving them. So, a lot of these things, companies, sponsor them, and that's how it goes. So one word about the cholesterol. So let not the people tell you that cholesterol is bad. Many doctors will measure your cholesterol. A lot of patients who come to us, if we ask them, do you have any disease? They'll say, I don't have diabetes, but I have cholesterol. Cholesterol is something that is natural that occurs in the body. So please do not let your doctor tell you that cholesterol, or LDL as they call it, the bag is bad for you. So now we know that the American health assessment approach is not a very good advice at all. Now, if you know LDL, some people know LDL. LDL is low density lipoprotein. That is the so-called bad cholesterol. And they want, the American Association wants everybody to have a value less than 100, and for diabetics to have a value less than 70. And that is nothing crazy. There's something very crazy. The only way you can achieve such low values is by eating a completely fat depleted diet. You don't want to eat any fat, and you also want to take statins, medicines to. Whereas if you go to and you go to the other approach that we have, which is the natural foods and lifestyle approach, where we do all these interventions. I talked about all these interventions. You find that the LDL will actually be on the higher side. So now we believe that LDL up to 180 is natural and healthy because you're eating natural foods, natural fats. So that is very good thing to do. So let not your doctor tell you that the LDL is bad for you and put you on some statin, which has got some serious side effects. So remember these principles and then you'll be fine. So the basic tenet of nature is that the foods nature made for us has been our fuel. Now suddenly we started, Americans told us that these are the good foods, and we started eating cornflakes and low-fat foods and these oils or low-fat oils and all this. Now remember that this is the wrong fuel. Our bodies are not made for this fuel. It's like putting diesel in a petrol car. Our bodies are not. For centuries and centuries, our body has been made for natural food stuff. And we don't eat that and we make all these artificial food. Our body is not made for that. It's like putting diesel in a petrol car. And therefore, it's not surprising that, and then of course, we have the dollar power, which promotes scientific studies saying that this is good, that the cornflakes are great for breakfast, etc. And sunflower oil is very good for health. It's certainly not true. Now, we come to proportion now. Okay, so we said what is good to eat, what is not good to eat, and we come to proportion. Now, this is something you might have heard of, foie gras. Foie gras is fat liver in French. So you might have tasted this. They've gone to France. So how they make this is they take the ducks and geese and they put a tube down, and then they force feed carbohydrates for them. So they just put carbohydrates into them, and you'll think that they are doing it for years and years. No, they do it only for 1 month. And what happens to the liver? The liver becomes 10 times its natural size just by feeding large amount of carbs for 1 month to the duck or the geese. It becomes 10 times, and then the animal is harvested, and the liver is a very delicacy to eat, the foie gras. So remember that if you overeat carbs just for 1 month, you will get up with a fatty liver. And that's the classical example. Now, a classical South Indian diet, we take idlis and dosas in the morning, we take sambar rice and rasam rice and curd rice in the afternoon. At night, we have chapatis, a little bit of rice, and that is nothing but foie gras. You're just overloading yourself with carbs. And no wonder we have a very large incidence of fatty liver, needing a lot of liver transplant these days, non-alcoholic fatty liver as we call it. This is just overload of carbs. So carbs by itself may not be bad, but overloading is very, very bad. So how do we know what to eat? So practicing easy way to dial your macros for the Indian diet is you bring down carb proportion of macros to at least 40% by volume. You don't need to count calories. You don't need to know what it is, but just make sure carbs are only 40% of what you eat. The rest 60 might be something else, non-carbs. Don't even have to say what to eat. It must be non-carbs, because I'm talking about the South Indian diet. For an American diet, it's exactly the opposite, because they are so rich in protein. You have to really restrict protein. But our diet, we are so carb rich that the simple thing you have to do is to restrict your carbs. Okay, so you reduce to 40%. The next 60 must be non-carbs. So whether it's fruits or vegetables or protein or whatever it is you're eating, that's great. The vegetable, it's great. So make sure that's a simple rule, and that will sort out your proportion. So how would you do it practically is we give you a small plate. So start off with a small plate, make it 40-60, take only 40% carbs, the rest is something. And you can see the proportion very nicely. Large plates you may not be able to see. And if you want to eat more, please do eat more, but make the rate. Don't go hungry. You want 1 more plate, please do take. You want 2 more plates, please do take. But keep the proportion up, and then you'll find that you're not making a mistake. So satiety, as we call it, is a very important need of the body. Just like sleep, you need to have satiety. So eat till you're full, but make sure the proportion is right. Eat clean food. So dialing is by volume, not calorie counting. No need to count calories. Absolutely not need to count calories. And this is a very practical way to do. Then we talked about macros. Now we come to micros. Micros is you got to eat all colors as possible. So in a week, make sure that that you consume all. These are micronutrients, vitamins, and the very micronutrients we even don't know about. So as long as your food contains a multicolor veggies and fruits, you are taking good amount of micronutrients. So that's a good way of going. Now we have this bacteria in the body that's now proven to be the cause of large number of these lifestyle diseases. So be careful about them. And this bacteria in our gut seems to regulate your brain function, your metabolic function, your liver, your immunity, etc. So take good care of it. So how to do that is that you have to avoid all these foods. We told you about bad calories. So only eat good calories. So bad calories to avoid it. So there are two types of food called as prebiotic foods. So now we have this concept of live food. Live food is uncooked food. So make sure you take some uncooked food. Whatever you eat, that everything is not cooked. Salads, for example, is a very good thing to do. So that's prebiotic for them. And probiotic is what contains the bacteria itself. So any pickled food, whether you take pickles, kimchi, cheese, all that pickled yogurt, very important. So you have to have alternate days at least some prebiotic food and some probiotic food, because we now know that the gut microbiome is really is sort of a center regulating all these things. So as long as you take prebiotic and probiotic food, you're fine. Now remember that that health is a holistic science, and even exercise plays a very important part in regulating your gut health. Now again, hydration is very important. Don't forget hydration. A lot of us, because we are in air-conditioned environments, we tend to not drink. So a good way of drinking is drink 4 large glasses of water when you're not thirsty. When you're thirsty, you're lagging behind on the fluid. So you take water, that's fine. But when you're not thirsty, at some point time of the day, you make it a habit to take 4 large glasses of water. That means your hydration will be good. And many diseases are linked to dehydration. And apart from water, you can take fruit juices are not good because they're very high calorie. But any green tea, any infusion is good. So whatever is good. So make sure that you don't fall behind on the hydration. Then we go to the pattern of eating. Now man was for living in this planet for 4 million years, but cultivation started only 1,000 years ago. So man was hunting when animals to eat, and then when he couldn't hunt, he was fasting, and then when he could hunt, he had something to eat. So for millions of years we have been doing eat, stop, eat, and our bodies have been programmed for this type of lifestyle. Now suddenly the Americans came and said you must have 3 square meals a day. Start with ready-made breakfast, eat cornflakes, and then eat some processed meat like bacon. That's good for health. And nobody knows where this concept came from. Something Americans said and everybody started following it. But now we have taken it to the extreme. We eat all through the day till we go to sleep. We keep on eating. Now, yes, genetics will modify based on your what you do, habits. But genetics cannot modify every year. It will take millions of years for genetics to modify. So what was the eat, stop, eat pattern now has become non-stop feeding and eating. And then we say that we are growing fat. Of course, you grow fat. So our bodies was not made to keep on eating like this. So genetics, genetic adaptation cannot keep pace with such a rapid growth. Now remember that food is much more than what you think it is. Food is a very important signal that we give to our body. And whenever you do eat food, we're giving a signal to you. So when we eat food, we signal the body that the food is now remember the ancient man. So whenever he had food available, he had to take it and he gave a signal to the body. Now I'm trying to conserve energy. So the body shuts down. The metabolism becomes very low. He's trying to conserve the food. And therefore, start storing the food for times when we have to survive when we don't have food. That's how the ancient man was. So our liver and our muscle can store a little amount of sugar or carbs. But our fat, remember that fat also has got a purpose. The fat that we have is for stored energy. So when we don't have food, the fat has to be used for energy. And that's how the body is built. So fat itself has got a good function. Okay. And that is like a bank. Whereas the muscle, the glucose that's stored in your liver and is like your wallet or your purse. A little bit of it is, but the bank that we have when we have food available is your fat cells. Okay, so we store fat, and that's the purpose of having fat in our body. So when we stop eating, what we call as fasting now, we signal to the body that the food is not available and it's time to start using the fat that we have. And that's how our body is made. So food is much more than what we think it is. A complex entity conveying many signals to the body. So when we eat, We're conveying the signal to the body, to metabolism, do this, don't do that. So food is much more than what we think is. Now, do all people who are obese necessarily overeat? I do not eat much, why am I fat? The answer is no. For many, it is a frequent eating without an interval that is the problem, and not the total amount that is. Not the total amount of calories that's the problem. Because a lot of patients will tell us that I'm not eating anything, but I'm still putting on weight. That's because you've been eating constantly without an interval. The body recognizes only two types of states. It's either fasting or it's a fed state. So when you have eaten, you tell the body, I have food available, so shut everything down. When you're fasting, you tell the body, no food is available, start burning all the, especially the fat, start burning the fat. So there's no in-between stages, either a fasting state or a fed state. But all these advice to constantly keep eating, such bad advice, and as you keep on eating all the time, you're telling the body, don't burn any fat, just keep storing everything. So that's the reason why people are fat, because you have told the body that store the fat, don't utilize the fat. That's why you're fat. And many of these new things that we have now, that means you can have food anytime. Early days, food was not available all the time. So you had to go and procure food. It took time. You had to cook the food. It took time. So you had an automatic interval. But now everything at an instant. And therefore, our body is not used to this. And therefore, that's the reason why many are fat. And when you keep on eating food, what happens? The insulin level keeps on going up and up and up and up and up. So without any interval, if you keep on eating, then you have an overdose of insulin. And whenever you have an overdose of anything, like if you give overdose of antibiotics, you call them as the body will develop resistance. So now you're starting to develop what known as insulin resistance, because you're going on eating all the time. The constant high levels of insulin causes insulin resistance. Now the problem with insulin resistance is that once insulin resistance comes, is like a bank in which you cannot take out anything. So whatever you eat excess goes to the body bank, which is a fat. But because you have insulin resistance, it cannot be utilized. Even if you are fasting, it cannot be utilized because you have insulin resistance. So this is the reason why everybody should understand what is insulin resistance. Anybody who has 1 in 3 Indians have insulin resistance. So if you have insulin resistance, it's a one-way bank. This bank will accept cash, but will not give you anything back. That's a real problem. And these are the symptoms that you have, of insulin resistance. Now, why should we all be aware of insulin resistance? Every third person in India has got insulin resistance. Now, because your body is asked to make so much of insulin, it eventually burns out. It eventually, the insulin cells in the pancreas burns out, and then you will get diabetes. But before the entire cells in the pancreas burns out, if we find that you have insulin resistance, by good interventions, health intervention, diet, exercise, fasting, you can reverse diabetes. And this is what we call as reversal of diabetes. But you can do reversal of diabetes only if you intervene in a stage where all the cells have not yet burnt out. There are still some cells left for them to produce insulin. But if you keep on eating all the time, you have high levels of insulin, you have insulin resistance, and your entire cells burns out, then you cannot reverse diabetes. So now we come to how we do is fasting. So fasting means taking a break from eating to send various signals to the body for many positive effects. So fasting has got many positive effects. So people think that fasting is invented in the US, intermittent fasting in 2014. That's not true. Fasting is what we have been doing in India for centuries, and it's really an Indian science. So if you take all religions, there's no religion, not a single religion in the world that does not prescribe fasting. And many times when you have to bring people of different religion together on a common platform, the common thing that you can interrelate between religions, common to all religions, is fasting. So it is such a fantastic Indian thing that we have is fasting. Now, fasting is quite different from starving. Starving is going low on calories. Fasting is clean. When you need to eat, you eat clean eating. Not only you're not counting calories, you're eating till you're full, satiety. You're eating till satiety, but then in between meals, you are not constantly eating and snacking. You're keeping your stomach empty, and that's fasting. It's quite different from a negative calorie diet that is starving. Starving and fasting are not the same. So some people call the miracle of fasting, and it's truly a miracle. Those are people who have tried fasting. It's truly a miracle. Okay, so it's really, you have a sense of well-being and hunger disappears. You feel energetic. And those of you who have tried it would subscribe to that. That once you start fasting, you're energetic all the time, my friend. So as a common advice, now what we tell people is that every single one of you must fast at least 12 hours every day. That's compulsory for everyone. And based on a lot of principles, you may have to extend that fast, may become 14 hours, 16 hours, etc. But not for everybody. But the minimum that that everybody, for a human normal, just like you need a certain quantity of sleep, you need to have a certain amount of time where you are not eating. You're telling the body, I'm not eating, so please do the things that you have to do when I'm not eating. So that is a minimum 12 hours. And based on various other things, we sometimes have to extend the fasting. I will not go into that. I don't have time to deal with the entire spectrum. I'm just giving you a snapshot of what we do. So we call dialing your fast. So some people, you may have to increase the fast to 14 hours, and all that. And what can you drink while fasting? So no eating while fasting, but you can have what are known as 0-calorie fluids. So as a rule, if you eat something or drink something that's less than 10 calories, the body does not interpret it as eating, as that that food is available. The body still thinks you are fasting. So these are things that are allowed while fasting. You can have water, you can have black tea without sweetener, black coffee without sweetener is fine. Any type of green tea is fine. Clear fruit infusions, not juices. Fruit infusion is fine. Half a lime juice with salt is fine. These are all allowed, and you must keep yourself well hydrated while fasting. So if we're doing a 16-hour fast, for example, you are very high BMI, very obese, and then we have to increase your fast level, fasting hour duration to bring you back to normal BMI. And then that means, we tell you must keep yourself hydrated with all these things. So you have to have what are known as 0-calorie fluids. It's an important concept that I want all you to understand. So I was telling you that the bank, that the things that you put in the bank, you cannot take it back because of insulin resistance. So a lot of us who are fat, especially who have a tummy, is because because of this, you are not fat adapted. But once you start fasting, doing regular exercises, the body learns, because the fat is an important organ in the body. The fat is an important organ. It is your stored energy when you're not eating. So you can reclaim your body's capacity to use that stored energy. So that's called fat adaptation. So if you do a little bit of fasting, do the exercise, eat clean, then your body learns to utilize its fat. And once it starts utilizing its fat, it's got this beautiful, battery there, the fat cells in your body. So you'll never ever feel tired, because whenever you are low on energy, the fat cells will get mobilized. And that's what you want. So this is called as fat adaptation. Once you become fat adapted, it may take about 6 weeks to get fat adapted. But once you get fat adapted, you have this beautiful battery in your body. So you'll never ever again feel tired. So it's like using a laptop on the power all the time. Use the laptop. That's what most people do. They're eating all the time, and therefore it's like on the power all the time. So one day that they don't have the power, they want to use battery, the laptop doesn't work because it's not used to functioning on battery, and therefore now. So similarly, we are eating all the time without a break, and therefore the body, especially sugars, we're eating all the time. The body is running only on sugar, and when you don't have sugar, the body just shuts down because it doesn't know what to do, doesn't know how to mobilize the fat, therefore not fat adapted. So you must learn to get fat adapted. So here is the example of a sugar burner. Because only we can store only very limited amount of sugar, as I told you, in the muscle and the liver. So a person must eat frequently, otherwise such low on energy. You must constantly, you are tired. Your stored fat is unused and visible. You have this so-called belly fat, and usually has lifestyle disease. You have diabetes, you are obese, you have POCD, PCOD, etc. But the fat burner is always energetic. They're able to do intensive exercises. He does not feel hungry, and body fat is utilized. They have very good toned muscle and shape because the fat gets mobilized. So you need to become. So fat can be used for other things like getting rid of cancer. I'll not go into that, but prolonged fast can also be very useful. So now we come to the question that Janik Ram wanted to answer: is any exercise good exercise? So some of the classmates, Janik Ram's classmates, have said that they just keep doing walking, and is that good enough? Well, to answer this question, any exercise is a good stress reliever. Okay, so if you are doing nothing and you're walking, it's a great thing, no doubt about that. And any exercise will lubricate some joints to a certain extent, no question about that. And any exercise is better than no activity, and that will give you a sense of well-being, but it may not give you any metabolic benefit. So reported benefit, you may feel great. That's because of a psychological effect, and it really may not have a metabolic. So it has got some uses, some minimal uses, just going for a walk, for example. But it is a law of diminishing returns. Then it doesn't not very. But you have to understand exercise. So commonly, especially women will come and say, "Sir, I worked the whole day, from morning till night. I'm working, but still I'm so fat." I'm sure you would have heard of examples of your neighbors, your relatives, your friends telling you that. Well, that's because they are not doing a scientific exercise program. There's no doubt that they are working from morning till night. No doubt about that. But they're not doing it very scientifically. So this is how we do it scientifically, what we call as exercise zones. Okay. And once you learn the science behind this, then everything falls into place. Just like how in a diet, you know how to dial your fast, how to dial your macros, how to take your micronutrients. Everything is is knowledge and science based. So again, like how food can signal your body, your heart rate zones tell your body to do different things. So based on what your heart rate is when you're doing whatever activity, it tells that, okay, now I'm doing this activity. So the body must do this metabolic response. So it tells you that. So it's the signals that we give to the body. Okay. So that's so whenever you do, just household chores, for example, it is work, no question about that. But you're only doing a warm-up. You're only 50% when you're doing a warm-up. So you're not really burning any fat. So the good idea now that we have all these health devices, so very available, cheap. So it's not for anything else, at least to monitor your heart rate during exercise. It's a good idea to have one of these. So we strongly recommend that you must have one of these health watches. Parameters like sweating is not useful in our country because, today and all, if you're in the afternoon, if you're just sitting, you'll be sweating, but that doesn't mean that you're burning fat. It's only not burning fat. Remember that fat has to be eliminated through the breathing. So you have to have that, that rapid breath. If you're not having rapid breath toward you're talking with your friend and walking for 1 mile, you're just talking nicely with your friend and walking, well, it gives you a sense of well-being, but not giving you any metabolic benefit. So what are the implications of intensity? What signals are we giving? So very, very simple thing to do. I want all of you to understand that. So the maximum heart rate formula is 220 minus age. So for example, if your age is 50, 220 minus 50 is 170. That's your maximum heart rate. Very simple. Nothing complex in this. So these are the various zones that you have. So we'll take an example of 50-year-old. So 50-year-old, if you are within 50%, no calorie, no fat burning. So just a feeling of good, you have a feeling of that you're doing something, but you're not having any metabolic benefit. If you're only 50% of your maximum heart rate, which is 170 for a 50-year-old. Now, once you come to 60%, so everyone has to know these three values. It's all available on the online. You can check it up. We call it as the three. So once we come to the 60%, then you start burning calories. Okay, but you may not build any endurance or cardio. You're just starting to use your fat for calories. And once you come to 70%, this is what we call as cardio. Cardio is endurance training. So your cardiorespiratory reserve goes up, then that is aerobic fitness. So if you want to develop aerobic fitness, you must make sure that your heart rate is 70% of your maximum heart rate for your age, that is 170 for a 50-year-old. Then you go to still higher, which is 80%, you come to an anaerobic. And that's what we now call as HIIT exercises or high intensity interval training. And then generally for older people, we do not think it's a good idea to go past 90% of your, that's for athletes, very young people. So there are three magic numbers. And how you dial this during your exercise, you tell your body what to do, to burn fat, to build cardiorespiratory reserve, etc. So these are the magic numbers for somebody who's 50 years old, 102, 119. So every age group, you remember these three muscles, and if you just have a simple fitness watch that tells you your heart rate, then that's all that you need to know what you're doing at that time. So for a 50-year-old, the magic numbers are 102, 119, and 136. It's all given on the online. You can check it up. So for your particular age, you should know your three magic numbers and you utilize it to what benefit, what metabolic benefit that you want from your exercise. So each age group has its own magic numbers. So the 4 diamonds, just like you have your 3 macros you had, divisions of food, and the proportion is very important. You must eat good calories and not bad calories. All those are important. Now exercise has got 4 dimensions, so you cannot be unidimensional in that. You can't just eat, okay, protein is good food, so I'm going to eat 20 eggs today, good protein. That's a very bad diet. Eggs may be a very good thing to eat, natural thing to eat, but then that's a very disproportional diet, and that leads to a lot of health problems. Similarly, overdoing one type of exercise may be very bad. That's the commonest mistake that we make. People, just do one type of exercise. That's not good. So 4 dimensions too. One is flexibility and mobility are to increase. Everyone must increase muscle strength and bulk, absolutely critical. And everybody must increase their stamina and endurance. And you must also learn how you can burn fat and calories quickly. This is what called as the 4D exercise program. Now, these are all top level athletes, medal athletes, Olympic athletes, but they're all poor specimens of health. Why? Because they have concentrated on one of them. This lady has concentrated too much on flexibility and mobility. Her muscle mass is very poor. And if you look at all the parameters that we told about, the key, not the master health check, but the fitness parameters, one will be very good, but the rest will be so bad. So these are all classic examples of ill health. Whereas some sport like tennis or badminton or basketball, for example, those athletes are very mixed type of, they're doing all 4 dimensions. And therefore, if you look at all these scientific parameters, they'll be excellent. And because you want to look at everybody on a scientific scale now. So for flexibility and mobility, you can do whatever you like. It's not like saying you must do only yoga, and that's the only way to health. Not at all. Whatever is your interest, you can do yoga, you can do calisthenics, you can do Pilates, whatever you like. That's one dimension, which is flexibility, mobility, balance, and core. So within that flexibility and mobility, we have this core. So you must work on your flexibility, mobility, balance, and core. Whatever you want, you can do. Whatever you feel like, you can. So once you have this template, whatever you want to do, you can Google whatever you want and build on this template. And that's the role of this template. Now cardio, you can do whatever you want. You can do brisk walking, you can do jogging, you can do running, you can do swimming, you can do Zumba, you can do whatever you want, provided your heart rate comes to that zone. Once your heart rate comes to the zone, whatever aerobic activity you can do. That's fantastic. Now, I'm not going to HIIT, but HIIT is a very useful thing, especially for busy people, that we go into the anaerobic zone. And anaerobic zone is fantastic. It's like doing weights for the heart. You burn your fat. And those who are obese, HIIT is an excellent way. Please do Google HIIT. And that is a very excellent way of burning fat and calories. Now, everyone, without exception, whether you are a man or a woman, you need resisted exercise with weights. Janik Ram has got a physique, enviable physique, but that's not the reason. The reason you're doing weights is not to do bodybuilding. The reason is for health. It's absolutely paramount importance that every one of us must do resisted exercise with weights. So these are the 4, just like your 3 macro diet, you need these 4 components to exercise. Now, these are very key things that common mistakes. So you don't need anything. You don't need a gym membership. You don't need anything. Everything that you can do, a simple watch now costs about 1,000 rupees. You can buy an inch tape to measure your abdominal girth. You should buy a digital scale, and you must have some kind of weight. Typically, a kettlebell is a great thing to have at home. That's all that you need, and then you can go to your journey to health starts very nicely. There's no need to have any expensive equipment. As long as you understand the principles, it's absolutely fine. Now, the important thing to understand is the principle of adaptability and overload. A lot of patients will come and say, sir, for the last 5 years, I walk 2 kilometers in the morning. And I usually tell them, very nice, but I'm sorry to disappoint you. The 2 kilometers of walking may have been very useful for you for the first year, but it was of little use to you in the year 2, 3, 4 onwards. Why? Because of the principle of adaptability and overload. So your body gets used to it very quickly. You were walking 2 kilometers. And unless you increase the distance or unless you increase the pace, your body is not put through its the metabolic requirement. So fitness can only be improved by training more than constantly improving. We do the same thing, walk 2 kilometers for last 5 years, The first year would have been very useful for you. The rest 4 hours has been a very poor from a metabolic standpoint. So this is a very important, that adaptability and overload is such an important principle that we have to understand. Principle of reversibility is also important. So people say, in exercises, and then think that use it or lose it. So if you suddenly wanted to go to a trek, for example, and you went into fitness, you went into a trek, great, you had a great time doing the trek, and then when you come back and you don't do anything, you will lose it. And the common thing that we say is it takes only 1/3 of the time that it takes for you to lose your fitness than what you did to go into fitness. Suppose you took 3 months to become fit. Within 1 month, you will become back to where you were. So within 1 month or 1/3 of the time, you lose your fitness. So this reversibility is also something that we have to keep in mind. And the common thing that people ask, should women and older people do weights? Absolutely, yes. You have to do weights. So what we now call is sarcopenia. So as we age, we were always talking that the bones become brittle. The bones don't become brittle. It's the muscles that become very weak, and muscle loss will occur with the age. So unless you do exercise with weights, your muscle loss will continue to progress, and you will become, your bones will, as a secondary thing, the bones will become weak, and you will become dependent on others and go into a wheelchair. So this is the age, normal age related. It's not something that you do. Without doing anything, our bodies will lose muscle. So but if you do exercise, you will arrest this loss. So you will have a very slow decline in muscle strength and bulk. Whereas if you don't do anything, you will go down. Now, what's the difference between this and this? Crucial difference is that this people will be independent till their death. Whereas these people will need a wheelchair, will need others. And that's really a crime to expect our children to look after us. Something that you did yourself. You didn't look after yourself. You didn't build muscle. And therefore, you're in a wheelchair. You're not able to go to the bathroom. So somebody you need to look after you. A nurse needs to look after you. Whereas those who build muscle by doing weighted exercises will be independent till they die. Such a fundamental difference. So how to strengthen bones? Earlier, most doctors or orthopedic surgeons will also say eat calcium supplements and vitamin D. It's absolute nonsense. Vitamin D will work only with people who are vitamin D deficient. This is such a wrong concept. During COVID days, I'm sure Janik Ram would know, Siva, all doctors started eating kilos of vitamin C, thinking it will boost their immunity. Vitamin C will work only people who are immune deficient. And if you eat 1 kilogram of vitamin C, it's not going to make your immunity 10 times. Certainly not. That's completely wrong concept. So vitamin D and calcium supplements will not make your bone fine. What will make your bone all right is you're building muscle strength by doing resisted exercises. And now we call it the muscle bone unit. If you cannot do anything to the bone, but if you build the muscle, the bone secondarily becomes very strong. So how do you build bones? You build the muscles around it. How do you build muscles? You do weighted rested exercises. And that's really the key to building bones and independence. So now we call it sarcopenia. Very important thing. So should everyone have access to a gym to do weight training? Not at all. There's simple things that you can have at home. And there's a kettlebell. And the kettlebell is an exercise. The only exercise involves all muscle groups in the body just by doing this one single exercise. So if you don't have a kettlebell, please buy one. And by just doing this one exercise, you'll put all your muscle fibers into work. So you don't need a fancy gym. You understand the concepts, you can have some simple things to do. Janik Ram would know about rep max. So rep max is the maximum weight one can lift once and not the second time. So this is what we use to quantify and to find out what weight you want. So similarly, weights are used for different effects. So if you are, if you are in the low rep range, it's for strength. If you are in the mid rep range, it's for shape. And if your rep range is over 15, then area. So depending on what you're trying to gain by the exercise of weights. Suppose using dumbbells, for example. Suppose you want to build endurance of the muscle, not the cardiorespiratory endurance of the muscle. You must be able to do it 15 times, greater than 15 times, you're building endurance. But if you increase the weight and can do only 10 times only, you can do, you're building hypertrophy. And if you want to, like a weightlifter, you want to, build strength to lift heavy weights, then you must make sure the weight is so high that you're able to lift it only less than 5 times. That we call as the rep max. So that's a very simple way that we can understand that. So everyone new to weights, what weight you must choose? Choose a weight that you can do only 10 times. If you want to buy a dumbbell, choose a weight of your dumbbell based on your own fitness that you can do 10 times. If you can do 20 times, that weight is too small for you. If you only can do it 5 times, the weight is too heavy for you. So that is the important concept of how we. So of course, there are a lot of other things, of course. In the gym, of course, is a science by itself. A lot of things to cover, but I will not be doing it today. As long as you understand exercises, it becomes very easy for you to adapt to what you like. So this person is able to do 30 push-ups. So he's doing aerobic exercise. Okay, I can convert this into a weighted exercise. So you can put on some weight, just a shoulder school bag, put some books into it. Now we're able to do only 10 times. So what was an aerobic exercise? You are now converted into an anaerobic exercise. Now you can also convert into a HIIT program, high intensity interval training. Yeah. So what is an exercise? By the knowledge of this, you can convert whatever activity that you like into an aerobic exercise, into an anaerobic exercise, or a weighted exercise as well. So classic aerobic exercise can be converted into anaerobic exercise. Classic anaerobic exercise can be converted into aerobic exercise. So you can use small weights and do it multiple times. It becomes an aerobic exercise. So the knowledge is what is important and not really the exercise that makes. So that's the key to the whole thing. So who, the American, from the American Heart Association, they say for heart health, you must do these exercise 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 exercise at all. That's a typical American way of compartmentalizing everything. Now you have 3 athletes here. Who has the healthiest heart? Now this is a marathon runner. You can see there's no muscle at all. Absolutely no muscle at all. And the heart is a very poor heart because they have overdone the endurance aerobic training. Therefore, they have what is known as eccentric hypertrophy of the heart. Poor heart they would have. Now, if you take this bodybuilder, he's got too bulky. He's concentrating only on rested exercises. He's put on so much muscle that is other so you'll have what is known as an hypertrophic failure. So heart is not a good. His heart is not good. But somebody who's a sprinter, for example, they will have a good mix and they will have a very healthy heart. So we know that running to death. So all these marathon runners suddenly die. That's because they have concentrated on one part of the program. Again, coming to Janik Raman's question, concentrating on one program too much will lead to ill health. Similarly, a weightlifter who does only bodybuilding, typically bodybuilders will die very young because their heart has got a hypertrophic failure. So skeletal muscle and heart muscle are reflection of each other. So just like the muscle is what we want to build, that's very important to build muscle and burn fat, especially the fat in the abdomen, what we call as belly fat. Belly fat is sick fat. It's not normal fat. Fat in other areas is normal fat, but your belly fat is sick fat, what we call as lipid overflow or ectopic fat or sick fat. Now, once you have belly fat, it acts like a battery, and this is driving the inflammation in your body. So once you have this belly fat, it's driving inflammation also. So that's the reason for heart attacks, not because you're eating some fatty food, it's because this belly fat is like a battery inflaming your whole body. Your vessels get inflamed, and that leads to blocks. So you must put on good muscle, toned muscle, and you must get rid of this ectopic fat. That's the thing and we know with these exercises how to do that. So there's no need to do fancy scans, anything DEXA scans to know your fat level. Simple thing is, if you have belly fat, that means that you have. So just look at the mirror. If you have fat outside, it means that you have so much fat. The mirror image of the fat that's inside your abdomen. Outside fat you have, mirror image of fat you will have inside your abdomen, and that's the cause of all your inflammation. But if you have good muscle, toned muscle, not hypertrophic muscle, a good toned muscle, then you know that your heart is good. So you don't need any scan. Just by looking at your outside muscle, you know how good your heart is. And looking at your belly fat, you know how bad a battery inside your abdomen. So you don't need any. So I'm not young. So physical appearance does not matter to me. That's what people say. A physical appearance is not about looking good. It's about being healthy. So please don't think that looking good. Janik Raman is a prime example. He goes for beauty pageants, etc. So that's not that's great. It is not a question of looking good. It's a question of being healthy. And Janik Ram is a classical example of how you can be very healthy. It's not about looking good. It's about being healthy. Don't fall into the trap thinking I'm old, so I don't need to look good. It's not looking good. It's about being healthy. The body composition is not a matter of looking good. It's about being healthy. So, the Americans, typically divide, the health into heart health, liver health, women's health, bone health, etc. Whereas our Indian science of Ayurveda, Ayu, of course, you mean life, and Veda, of course, is studies, talks about the intricate relationship between spirit, body, and mind. That's what Ayurveda, we all know about. Ayurveda is not, it's such a holistic science. It talks about the mind, spirit, and body. Not only the mind, spirit, and body, but how it interacts with the whole universe. Such a holistic science. That's one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is the American way of looking at things. Everything is compartmentalized. Do this for your heart, do this for your liver, do this for your kidney, do this for your gut. So that's the very American. So remember that disease can be very focal. Okay, you can have liver disease, where you can go to a liver specialist. You can have a kidney disease, you can go to a kidney specialist. But health intervention, very important point, is universal. In other words, whatever good that you do for your heart, does good for your liver, does good for your kidneys, does good for your bones. Whatever you do good for your brain, does good for all other organs. So the health intervention, luckily, you don't have to do organ by organ. It's always holistic. Okay. So all these things called about bone and joint health, women wellness, gut health, heart fitness are all complete sham. There's nothing like that. Either you're healthy or you're unhealthy. There's nothing like bone and joint health, heart fitness, nothing like that. Anything that you do that's good for your heart, whether it's your diet intervention, whether it's your fasting, whether it's your exercise program, will help all your body. You cannot make only your heart healthy and the rest of the body completely in shambles. You cannot be like that. Or you cannot make only your bone healthy and the rest of the body in bad shape. Either your body is healthy or unhealthy. So disease is focal. You can have gallbladder disease, but you cannot have gallbladder health. Your body is healthy or unhealthy. Very important concept. So that's the last slide. 21st century, the whole population is sinking into, we're all the mistakes that we make. And the 21st century, we need fast solutions for everything. And many doctors think that we can give pills for hypertension, for diabetes, for statins, and then cure everybody of lifestyle diseases. You can never do that. The take-home message is that lifestyle disease cannot be cured by drugs. One has to address the source. Otherwise, you're not going to get it. So this is, again, Hippocrates who said, the greatest medicine of all is teaching people not to need them. Very, very, very important statement. That the greatest medicine of all is teaching people that they may not need it. Absolutely important for that. So thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Janik Ram again. And thanks to everyone who listened. Thank you so much.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful lecture, Dr. Bose. Really, really, I've heard your lecture, but then every time I see it, I learn a point. So you can stop your sharing. So, yeah. So we will go on to questions. Let me start off with some very brilliant observations. Number one, I hope Americans have not tuned in. Believe me. I can see you are anti-American, man. At least 10 times you said, all the Americans, all the Americans.
No. Jokes apart, they have to be squarely blamed for the status that we are in now. I mean, you have to take the blame for it. They are responsible for it.
Yeah.
Like it or not. Yeah.
Very, very good. I just want to also comment about the fitness part in the gym. One of them asked if I can start weights now. There's no age to start. I mean, you have to start. And for those who have already been doing this very important point, which Dr. Bose said about adaptation. So it also applies to every aspect of exercising. So, for example, if you do weight training or maybe some, you have to give a stun. I always say you have to stun a muscle. means you just can't do maybe you do a biceps training, just a biceps curl 10 reps a day, and you keep on doing it on the other every fourth day. When it comes, I think the muscle gets adapted. So you have to jerk a muscle or a stun a muscle, and adaptation is very quick. So I think this is the principle, I think, followed for every aspect of exercise. I hope that's true, Dr. Bose.
That's absolutely true. Yeah. So if you're using the same weight for many years, then you're not doing anything. You would have noticed that. So
Exactly.
you have to challenge it. Your muscle becomes adapted to that weight. Then you have to challenge it.
Yeah, or what you can do is to, the same thing you can do in a different way. There are various ways to exercise a particular muscle, and you can actually ask your, a fitness expert who can actually guide you on to just differ. Each muscle has got at least 15 to 20 different ways to exercise, and you can give different kinds of exercises. Having said that, I just want to ask you, Dr. Bose, you talked about fasting and there was one question. You're eating at around 8 p.m. and then morning 10 a.m. you're taking your breakfast. Is that okay? I mean, 8 to 10 hours, is that okay? Or you need 12 hours for sure?
8 to 10 actually is more than 12 hours. So the first thing, a lot of people who come to us, we have done for hundreds of people now, thousands actually. So if somebody comes and asks, what is the first thing you do? You talked about so many things. What is the first thing that I need to start off? You start having an early dinner. That's the most important, then that's the first step that we advise. So you're taking about, either 7 o'clock, you take dinner, then morning, even if you have breakfast at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, that still gives you, 12 hours. But the important thing is not to eat any snack after your dinner. That's a critical thing.
Yeah.
So once you do that early dinner, because a lot of people are busy, doctors, especially business people, they come home at 10:30, they eat at 11 o'clock, and then they say they develop blood pressure and diabetes. Of course, you'll develop that. I mean, the 12-hour gap is important for everyone. But if you are obese, you want to lose weight, you need to extend that fast a little bit. Okay. Absolutely. And slowly extend that fast. Now, if you are still, if you're really obese, you add an exercise program during fasting. So they're all scientific principles. And once you add an exercise program during fasting, that we call as a metabolic workout, and you lose fat like no time. You'll be losing fat. So and again, like in gym, people know as soon as they do the exercise, they'll immediately eat because they don't want to burn muscle. That's the other end of the spectrum. So all these interventions that we use are very scientific. Know how to use your body to the benefit that you want.
Perfect. Now, I think, can we have a few questions, Dr. Bose, for another 20?
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is to ask the participants to raise their hand. Of course, I saw Dr. Chandrasekhar, he's one of my classmates, raising his hand. So I'll first unmute him. And people who have got questions, you can raise your hand so I can see, and I can ask you to unmute, and you can talk to Dr. Bose, and he's there to answer your questions. Over to you, Dr. Chandrasekhar. You have to unmute, my dear friend. You are muted. Can you unmute him? Hello?
Chitra, can you?
Yeah. Hello, Chandrasekhar, you're muted. Suman?
Yes, sir.
Can you unmute Chandrasekhar? So meanwhile, I want to thank BBK, Krishna Prasad, my friend, my childhood friend, my first friend in my life, who has arranged this meeting through his company as well, Shield. So I thank Shield for all the efforts they have put in for the past 2-3 days. I have been in regular touch with them. Really, thank you. Have you unmuted Chandrasekhar?
Yeah, yes.
Carry on, Chandra. Yeah.
Now, Doctor, it's very informative one. We know how to balance our food now. Otherwise, we have been having a wider choice, whether it is packaged food or fast foods or no natural food. Of course, last 3 years, I've been moving to not eating any kind of pizzas and burgers. Even in a hurry, I don't. Rather, you have a lemon juice and then to quench your hunger and then move to the natural food. Sometimes, yeah, it keeps skipping my schedule. But yeah, one I have been facing is, does the body weight really have an impact on the knee joints? Yes, I've been undergoing this knee pain, but the one of the aims physiotherapy suggested me some kind of exercise, and I started doing for last 15 years. So no further treatments, no X-rays, nothing. But yeah, off and on, just as part of the government thing, with the age, I do some kind of test and see that okay, they all seems to be normal. So this exercise has a little bit helped specifically for the pain. I don't know how it's going to one. That's body weight is what I'm trying to manage. But still, however, just a few months back, though my body weight should be around 65, 64 kgs, but they have identified I have a cholesterol. So I was thinking, how do we balance this food so that one, I maintain my body weight, and I don't know because I'm still thinny and I have to do this. So this question is what is still going in my mind. Another thing I have also learned that in the night you don't have large carbohydrates. I stopped eating rice. I don't know whether it is correct or not, but yes, I say that one meal a day with full meal with carbohydrate, roti, and some kind of subjis. But again, I see that it is not oily food. Either it is para-boiled vegetable, or even sometimes you get to taste. You take the masalas. So you seeing, the appearance sometimes seems to be good, and I take at least a one spoon of masalas. Is it advisable that night during the night I don't take rice or extra carbohydrates? Is what is my question here.
Dr.
Yes.
Bose, did you hear that question?
Yeah, I heard that question. Yeah. So I don't think, you have to look at really BMI and not your absolute weight. And I think your BMI is fine. So your knee problem has nothing to do with your weight. That's number one. Night, of course, nothing wrong in eating carbs at night, but it's good to have at least one meal because I said, South India, the problem is over carbs. In the American diet, in the Western diet, it is the protein that is overdone. So generally, as a general guideline, if you can avoid carbs in one meal, it'd be a good idea. And as I said, the proportion is important. 40% carbs, healthy carbs, very good for your body. Now remember that if you go too low on carbs, you'll start losing muscle. So I didn't have time to go through the parameters. One of the important parameters is muscle girth. You got to monitor your muscle girth, your BMI, your body mass index. Okay, the weight scale you're monitoring. So you want to be in ideal BMI range, and your muscle girth, if you're losing, if you don't eat carbs, the body will start taking the muscle for the energy. That's the very important point. Yeah. So many people who go on a crash diet and say I've lost 20 kilos, they have lost their muscle. They have not lost their fat, and that's a very bad thing. They're actually going into a very position of ill health, not health. So body weight is not the answer. You must think about losing fat and not body weight, and putting on muscle. Janik Ram, for example, has got a lot of muscle. Will have a high body weight. That's good. That's muscle weight. So the BMI is very important. Carbs, 40% carbs is healthy carbs. Good calories is okay. Now it can it's nice to say you can eat in the morning, eat in the afternoon. They're all not practical. The whole thing has to be practical. So if you're in your office and you come back home where you get fresh food, fresh carbs in the night, please eat it. Don't complicate it too much. It's not very complicated. Yeah. As long as you understand the proportion, that should be fine. I see a lot of questions about dinner and this thing.
Dr. Rupali is there. Let us put her on. Dr. Rupali is from Nagpur, and she's also a very fitness freak. She does a lot of cycling, I think, for many, many kilometers. Rupali, want to? She's also a medico-legal expert. So
hello, sir.
Yeah, Rupali, carry on.
Hello, sir. Actually, since last 6 months, I have left my cycling because of some backache, but I have switched to yoga. But I am not able to lose weight, maybe because I'm eating too much of carbohydrates. But I want to ask you, can I start running? People have advised me fitness experts that you should start running if you want to lose weight. But at this age of 48,
That's exactly the point. Now you're just doing yoga, it's only giving you flexibility. It's not giving you the four components of what you need. Commonest mistake that we make. So I do yoga, I'm still not, of course you're not, because you're only doing flexibility. You're only concentrating on one part of it. Like eating, I eat only proteins. It's not good enough. So you can do running, you can do swimming, you can do cycling, whatever you want. Nothing wrong in running at this age. Good shoes. Running is a very good. And actually, many people from our batch are going to do the marathon, the Chennai marathon. So all Janik Raman's classmates. So we are 56
No,
years
some say that you might harm your joints, knee joints.
Absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong.
Okay.
Absolutely wrong. Good shoes, running is good. And even if you have bad knees, even if you have osteoarthritic knees, walking is very good. Weight bearing is very good. They're all wrong advice. Okay. So please do whatever aerobic activity that you want.
The one more point which I want to emphasize is that if you keep on running without doing tension exercises, I think Bose can comment on this. Without increasing the muscle mass of the leg, just running, will it help? I mean, is it good?
That's what we covered. So that's only aerobic. So 4 components to it.
Exactly.
You do yoga, you do running, you're still covering only 2.
Yeah.
You do rest 2 also left. So you must, Rupali, you must do weights also.
Yes.
And you can put in a HIIT program once a week. Great. Then you have covered all 4 components.
Okay.
And if you do a little bit of fasting, you'll find that your weight loss occurs without any effort. It's so natural. You are so energetic all the time. And you eat clean food. That's it. There's no magic involved.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. Your lecture was wonderful, very informative.
Thank you
so
much.
Sir.
Real expert.
Yes, I got to learn so many new things today. Yeah. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Rupa, for joining. Do we have anybody else? Dr. Prakash is here. He is from Bokaro. And Dr. Prakash, you want to unmute yourself, please? You want to ask some questions to Dr. Bose? Believe me, after Dr. Bose has started this, our classmates, most of us are now afraid of Bose. In fact, when I see him, I should be fit. It's like that. He's made. Oh, Anthony! Wow, my one of my very, very close friends, Anthony Francis. He's a professor of EAT. And can you unmute yourself, Anthony? Can you unmute yourself, Anthony? Suman, can you unmute Dr. Anthony, please? Can you?
Okay, sir.
Suman?
Okay, sir.
Yeah, you have to, because I don't have the control.
Yeah, Dr. Janki, this is Dr. Prakash.
Prakash is online. Yeah, please, carry on.
Basically, Dr. Bose, this is second time I'm hearing you.
Yeah.
And first time we had a lot of interaction. Every time, as Janki said, we hear to you, it is easy and new things are coming up. And whatever you said are very practical, but only thing what I feel myself is the consistency. I do practice for some time, I just start limping. And as it is said, it is very easy to put on weight. It really needs effort to get rid of it. So only consistency. And today I learned that mixing of different type of exercises and a blend of all, plus you have to keep on increasing. Like I go for morning walking, and see, basically I wanted to ask you one thing: brisk walking versus running, which is good?
No,
I usually practice brisk walking. So
no, as I said, it's not your brisk walking can be quite different from my brisk walking. So the question of what is your heart rate? So you buy one of these devices and find out whether you are really reaching that that zone. So for different fitness people, like Janik Raman said, it's different. So for Janik Raman, for example, who is very fit, even brisk walking is not enough. He has to run. But somebody who is not as fit, even slow walking may serve the purpose for some time till you become fit. And then you got to increase that. So you have to monitor your heart rate. I told you clearly how we do that.
How much should increase while you were doing brisk walk? Or
no, he gave you the table, right? That table, 220 minus your age.
Okay, 220 minus 8.
So it's all available on the net. You can check.
Yeah.
So at what level your heart rate should be to burn your fat and all these things. So the golden 3 numbers are available.
For your age, you have 3 numbers. So you know the 3 numbers, and base you put your heart rate where you want it. So that'll be different for different people. So for Janik Ram, will be different. For you, for me, will be different depending on our fitness level. So for somebody who's not fit, even mild activity is good exercise for some time till they get adapted. Then they need to increase their activity.
Yeah,
So
actually,
as
one comment,
get
Dr.
adopted,
Bose, is that
people
many do
increase
what is called the crash course. Means they want to have quick gains. It never happens like that. It should be part of your body lifestyle. And believe me, I've been doing badminton, playing badminton, and the gym, and of course a little bit of yoga, not much, for the past 20 years at least. 20 years I've been doing that, and not a day goes without me spending at least 1.5 hours for my body. So if you want to have a crash course, some people say I've reduced weight 20 kgs in X number of months. And then if you leave that, it comes back, double. It's like that. Am I right, Dr. Bose?
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah. So you must enjoy all that activity. That's why, you cannot prescribe everybody should run, everybody must eat spinach. It's not like that. As long as you understand the concept, whatever you like dancing, that's fine. But make sure heart rate is that you're doing. You like cycling, you like to walk with your friends, whatever the activity, as long as you understand the science behind that activity and you do it. So you must enjoy all of this. That's absolutely important point. Otherwise, you're not going to keep it up. All this activity that you do, you must enjoy
excellent
it.
points, Dr. Bose. Only thing is the consistency which is missing in most of us. So that is something we have to, as Dr. Janki said, it has to be a part of your lifestyle and a daily routine. So
That's very true.
important.
Yes.
Dr. Anthony, can you
Thank
unmute yourself, please? Dr. Anthony? Anthony Francis. Can you unmute yourself?
I think they don't have the thing to unmute, I think.
Oh, he doesn't have that. So Suman can do that.
Yeah, Chitra.
Ms. Chitra, do you have the control to unmute a person? Anybody else wants to raise their hands or ask questions, please? We have some very good people who are.
Jangan, there's some in the chat. There are a lot of questions.
Yeah, you can pick up some questions, Bose. I'm not able to see them.
The previous Kumar. So our dinner time is always 10 p.m. and breakfast is 7 a.m. 10-hour fasting is not possible. So your dinner must not be at 10 p.m. Simple as that. It's the most important life intervention, as I told you. The commonest mistake that we make in South India. So if you're at work, make sure your dinner comes there, or you take your dinner, or whatever you do. These are simple modifications that we can do. You cannot eat dinner at 10 and 11 o'clock and expect to be healthy. You must take it, 7, 8 is okay. As long as you have a little late breakfast, it should be fine. This 12-hour principle, you'll find tremendous changes in your body once you start doing that. Yeah. So, and then, like a student who gets good grades, who get a prize, gets motivated. So like that, once you see the results, you'll get motivated. So the first thing that you do is start having an early dinner, eat clean, and then you'll find that everything is falling into place. Then you start some kind of exercise, and then you will find your your path to health. And then what are the questions? So can we start doing weights? Of course, you can start doing weights now. So even if you are 70 years old or 75 years, as I said, you must do weights. So the weight may not be high, start with low weights, but you must do weights. Absolutely, nobody, even if you're 80 years old, you must do weights, and that will all keep you, mobile. You will not be dependent on anybody, and dependent on anybody is more cruel than death. Believe me, you'd rather die than being dependent on others for simple mobility, like going to the toilet, for example. I would rather die, really. So something more cruel than death itself. So please don't fall into that trap. You must do exercises, weighted exercises, all your life. Till the last day of your life, you must be doing that.
Yeah. So any other questions? Anybody's raising their hands? Okay, this will be available on YouTube, this recording of this, and we'll also try to put it in all the groups which I'm in. And thank you very much, Dr. Bose. Really, really a big salute to you. And this, I'm sure, will trigger or ignite a few people who have been watching. And if one person follows you, I think the aim of this class is definitely met with. So thank you, Dr. Bose. Thanks a lot from my heart. And I'm sure the KV alumni would have enjoyed it. And there were so many of my classmates who are watching you. Thanks a lot again, and have a great Sunday.
Thanks, Janik Ram, and thanks to all the KV people. I think it must have been a fantastic batch. You can see the interaction here. So thanks for joining, and good night, everyone. So nice.
Good night, Bose. Thanks a lot.
Hey, thank you very much. It was a wonderful session. Very enlightening. Very enlightening. I'm sure we're going to be benefited from the session, Janki.
Hey, Shankar is there. Shankar. Hey, thanks, Sada. Shankar, why don't you unmute and tell something, man? Can you unmute yourself? They're all my classmates. Shankar is in Bangalore right now. Yeah. Shankar, yeah.
Yeah, very nice session, Doctor. Joe, I just I joined a bit late, but it was very interesting. I would also go through the YouTube for the full study of it and the knowledge of it. Excellent presentation.
Thank you, Shankar. Thanks a lot. And thanks, Bose. Good night.
Good night. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Nice beginning.
Yeah.